You'd be proud of being photographer of the year because in 100 years, there's only going to be 100 of you.
Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go. Hey, are you on the hunt for someone or something specific in our industry? Maybe you need a sale graphic built for a horse you're selling. Maybe you're looking for a bookkeeper who understands farm and ranch finances. Maybe you need a promo video built for your company, a website refresh, a business consultant, whatever it may be. You can find all of those and a whole lot more inside of the West's directory. It's the only place online where you can connect with freelancers and contractors who are all based in the agriculture and Western industries. You don't have to explain the nitty-gritty details of our industry because they already understand it. You can search by category, location, type of program they need to work in. Any way you can think of needing to search and finding somebody, you can do it. I promise life just got a little easier. To get started, you can go to ofthewest.co/directory. Welcome to today's episode of Leaders of the West. You guys know our goal is always to highlight people who are really shaping the future of agriculture, Western industries, equine industry, Western sports. And we're going to do just that today because I am joined by Christopher Click Thompson, who is an award-winning rodeo photographer and is the 3-time PRCA Photographer of the Year. Click is originally from Virginia. He came from a career with the Department of the Defense, but he has since built a career documenting the sport of rodeo from every angle, from the bright lights of NFR to the quiet, behind-the-scenes moments that most people never see. His work doesn't just capture action, it really does capture trust and grit and the stories that make this industry what it is, and his passion for photography really is contagious. After this interview, I wanted to go pick up a camera, and we all know that I am not creatively inclined in any way, shape, or form when it comes to that. You guys are going to absolutely love this episode because he really just goes into what drives him, how he finds that creativity. He talks a lot about the process that is being a photographer and how the idea of what got you here won't get you there, and you always have to continue to be working to what is next, but also still sitting back and reflecting on where you are. So let's have it for the one and only Click Thompson. Okay, Click, thank you so much for sitting down with us today. I do have a feeling everybody knows who you are, but can you give us just a little bit of backstory as to where you grew up, what you did? You worked for the Department of the Defense, and now here you are, a well-known Western photographer. That is not necessarily the life point somebody would anticipate or expect. So we want to know all about it.
I had a friend that she recently said, I am not the, how did she word it? I am not the common outcome, or she worded it a little bit differently, but it was basically stating how you would never expect me to be what I am today. And I think I do enjoy the fact that one day I'll tell stories about how I was this rodeo photographer and I traveled all over the country and stuff like that. But I say that today, who knows, maybe one day it'll never stop or I'll somehow always be tied to it, which is more likely the case. But yeah, I'm originally from Virginia. I was born actually in Japan. My dad was in the Navy, but both of my parents are from Virginia. They still live in Virginia. I'm the outcast, so to speak, or the one that left the house. I've been in Texas now almost 6 years. Prior to that, my last big boy job, I worked for the Department of Defense and I helped soldiers get promoted. And we did various different things, from creating new kind of operating procedure videos for them, because the building I worked in was kind of a full multimedia center. So we did fabrication, we took photos, we did video, 3D machines, the whole deal. So it was really kind of an advanced place and a cool place to work. But part of my main job was I helped soldiers get promoted. And then eventually I decided I was doing some stuff with a PBR and shooting some rodeos. And one day I decided to make the jump and do that full time. So here we are, 6 years in it. We've survived a pandemic and amongst other things, and we're rocking and rolling.
Holy cow. Okay. I know there's still a lot of questions circling in the air right now. The first is, I'm going to anticipate you grew up in Virginia.
Uh-huh.
Your parents were in the military.
Yeah.
You were not around rodeo at all. What was your first rodeo? Do you remember that experience?
Actually, the first, which is crazy when I tell people. So the first time I was ever really I've been around horses before, just kind of casually here and there. My grandfather, we used to always, we go to visit him and we pull up and me and my brother would jump in this old Chevy truck. And I mean, he had vice grips on this side to roll down the window. And we took us to go see some, like till this day. And my mom would confirm it. We don't know whose horses they were. It was this beat down barn that we'd pull up to. And 3 or 4 horses would pop their heads out. And we pet horses for about 10, 15 minutes and go back to the house. So that was kind of, as far as in the equine space, that was the first ever interaction that way. But I went to my first bull riding in 2010. And that was where it kind of all started. And actually, the young lady I went with is actually my sister-in-law because my brother married her sister. And obviously, we didn't work out, but that's neither here nor there. But we're cool. And well, we're still good friends. And then, but that's when I got hooked, no pun intended, but got the bug. And I used to work at a theme park in Virginia called Busch Gardens. Formerly was owned by Anheuser-Busch, and one of my coworkers rode bulls. And he was telling me about just local stuff. And I had just kind of graduated from undergrad and was just looking for some new cool things to photograph. And I had a little bit of the bug from that PBR experience. And then I was just out there and I remember it was raining like it is right now. And I get out there and I had never seen bulls that close. And I took a whole bunch of pictures of bulls just kind of in pens, and each one of them was a little bit different. And then it started raining. And there I was standing under this tent with a bunch of cowboys that I didn't know, or at least my best version of what I thought were cowboys. And that's how it all started. And with a little deal in a town called Gordonsville, Virginia, which is just outside of Charlottesville where UVA is. And that was kind of the breeding ground for where I started. And here we are.
And here we are. So then at what point, we all know that rodeo does exist on the East Coast, but it is not as prevalent as it is in, Texas, the South, the Midwest, West, whatever you want to call it, right? So
yeah.
You went to this PBR, and at one time you started working for the PBR, taking photos. But how did you continue to go to rodeos?
At first, it was kind of a slow process. Like you're getting bits and pieces. The cool thing about, I think, the Western community is that it is very small and very large at the same time. But I think once you're kind of in the mix, you're 1 to 2 degrees separation really from everybody. Like someone knows someone or was in a truck with someone or bought a horse from somebody or say, and vice versa. So it doesn't take much to chain to the next person. So that was kind of the thing. Like I was doing where I was in Virginia, North Carolina, that's big bulls and barrels country. Like there's always bucking bulls. Everyone's on horses. Like you can find horses really anywhere, but definitely a lot of horse trainers there, things like that. So that's and we do have some rodeo, especially as you start going, Virginia's in like this kind of weird holding spot. And then like north and south of it is where kind of our rodeo spaces and regions breed. And then so bouncing back and forth and actually the PBR allowed for me to kind of go up north and go back down south. But yeah, I just spent a lot of time leaving the house, and my mom would like cross her fingers, hoping I'm coming home, but like just back and forth, just trying to figure out where to go. And then, yeah, over time, it's just like the urge kind of, cause yeah, I remember like talking to my first PRCA person, like, how do I even get involved or where do I start? We had like one pro rodeo really in Virginia that was at a horse racing track. So I'm like, oh, I don't have, how are we going to do this? But over time you meet people and you figure it out, and yeah, got to move a little bit. I think that's kind of the East Coast thing. You have to, what I tell anyone who's like got a little bit of talent, like you got to go. Cause that's like, and if you've got the ability and you've got the means, you don't have life restrictions, you got to go. You got to go west and you got to get that and get the experience. Cause then you really figure out where you land talent wise, quality wise. And then that's usually kind of going to be your guiding light to where to go.
How many years ago did you first start taking pictures of what I would call Western elements?
2010, I went to my first bull ride, and then 2011. So the very next year, I was hungry for it. And as soon as I found a way to just be around it, that's what I did. I just started shooting it. And like the funny thing where I would always say I am close to everything and near nothing. Like everything's a 3-hour drive. Like it's not, I remember one time I was sitting in an Uber ride with a guy, And he was from Arizona, and he talked about we just go to a rope in here and we go to a rope in here. And I'm like, well, where I'm at, we got to bring steel everywhere. Like if there's a bull riding, they got to haul steel there. They got to set it up. They got to do the whole deal. So we did, the frequency wasn't as often. So like usually we'd have to shoot something once a month. But then you started, I think just the hungriness you had to build off of that. Like, oh, well, I guess we got to go to Maryland today, or I guess we got to go to North Carolina, or wherever the rodeo is, we got to go to West Virginia or Ohio, or, so like naturally some of that kind of just pulls you in a bunch of different directions.
Well, it is so funny you just used the word hungry, because as you said that, that is literally what I was thinking about, because I have this timeline over here in my notes. So you first started taking pictures in 2011. You would have moved to Texas. You left your Department of Defense job in 2019. Is that right?
Yeah, officially in 2019. Yeah.
This is the year 2025, and you are now a 3-time PRCA Photographer of the Year.
Yeah.
In that time span.
When I break it, so from 2011, I shot my first PBR finals in 5 years. And then I moved, and that was 16. And then 2019, I moved to Texas. In 2020, I got my card on the PRCA side. And 21, I shot the Steer Open finals. And then 22 is when it kind of all blew up. I shot the NFR Open, the NFR, and I was Photographer of the Year, and I've been Photographer of the Year these previous 3 years. So I call it, as we say in the military, kind of fast tracking, but part of it was the plan. I didn't know how it would, develop, or how it would, progress, or, reveal itself. But I just tried to put the ducks in a row and put myself in positions to be successful and go from there. But yeah, like you have to be hungry, and it has to be, I think Trevor Brazil talked about it one time about not having any plan Bs. Like you have to be committed to just that plan A. And there are going to be days that it doesn't make sense. And it really doesn't make sense to everyone else. Like I tell people, I left, as I'm a young Black kid from Virginia, I left a good government job that paid well to go be a rodeo photographer. And nobody there, they're like, you're going to go do what? Like they don't have the information to even compute that decision. Yeah, is that even a job? Like, how do you, like, just recently in the last couple of years, like my pastor, who's my cousin on my dad's side, just now realized people called me Click. And it wasn't until I showed up in like the local Gazette Journal, like little newspaper deal, that people were like, oh, that's what he does. I'm like, it's like fair. Like now they get it.
I love this though, because I think that this is so typical. So it does seem like things have kind of happened fast, right? In the last 6 years, you have gone all in and never looked back. And again, 3-time PRCA Photographer of the Year. That does not come easy. Yeah. But at the same time, you have been at this for 14 years when you add it all together, right? 2011 till now, 14 years.
Yep.
But only in the last 6 years has it really, like, you've stacked win on top of win on top of win on top of win. And it seems like that momentum, now that you have it, is at a high rate of speed. And I think that that is so true, thinking about, for many of the people who are listening to this, is when you first start something, it doesn't happen overnight. It does not happen fast. It is slow and painful progress, but you are pushing this rock, and you start at 0 miles an hour, and then it's 0.1 and 0.1, and then it's 0.2. And then once you get to 1, it's 2. And it's like that doubling effect. So you do have to be so committed. I tell people now that whenever somebody wants to start a business, I always ask them, can you be committed to this for 10 years? Because that is likely what it is going to take before you see and reach the level of success that you want. But again, we see it as, oh, Click's only been doing this for 6 years and he's just overnight superstar. And that's not what it is at all. It takes a lot of time and a lot of work. And I just love that like, that is the timeline. In the last 6 years, you have reached things you never would have imagined, but you have been at this for 14 years.
Yeah. I tell people the statement is it takes 10 years to be an overnight sensation. And the thing that I try to convey to a lot of my young students or people I'm mentoring is like patience. Like it is a process. I think particularly with photography is that photography, it's so easy to take a picture of something now. You can do it on your phone, that it's become like innately simple to the point that people think they can do it just like they can walk. And I'm like, but photography is very much a lifelong journey process. Like there are elements, you could be doing it for so long one way, and then you go look at someone's picture on Instagram or pass a picture on a wall. You're like, oh, I could do that. And then now I've got to learn how to do that. And it's just opened a whole new plane. Yeah, like you have to be patient, but you have to be like, you have to have conviction in that as well. Like you have to be patient and like, but be committed to the patience as well. And it's crazy how time flies too, because so often, especially when you've overcome the struggle or like conquered some task that or a roadblock, those are the things often that you look back fondly on. Like, oh, that's what allowed me to persevere. And like, so when this next obstacle comes, you're like, oh, this is nothing. We remember when we didn't have any money? Like, at least I've got a few dollars in the bank. Like that I had to do with like nothing. Like I had to borrow money to do that. At least I can pay this with my own money. So yeah, it's just steadily, steady drip wears away the stone.
So on the topic of process and conviction, you describe yourself as passionately obsessed with photography. Can you elaborate on how that really drives your creative process?
I think that like my passion, or the thing I've said before and a lot of times, and I still reshare it, is to chase joy. And when I say chase, as in being an active pursuit, being deliberate in that. But I think with my photography, or I think one of the things that has separated me from a lot of people is that I am just as passionate and obsessed with the craft as I am the subject matter. So like I still fall in love with pushing the button. It doesn't matter what it is that I'm taking a picture of. Like I put things in place to kind of set myself up to be successful. Like I just recently, in less than a couple months ago, I got this old 50-year-old camera that is all the ease of taking a picture with your phone goes away. Like that camera, there's no batteries. Like I had to walk around with a light meter. It's got a dark slide in it. The film only takes 10 pictures. Like you can mess the film up just loading it. It has a waist level viewfinder. Everything through the viewfinder is backwards. You got to manually focus. You have like the buttons in a different spot. It's heavy. It's like carrying a video camera.
I was going to say, this is like the old school 1980s video camera that you had to mount on your shoulder.
It feels like that, but it's this heavy old camera, but the pictures look incredible. And the reason I got it was it gave me back the experience of photography. And like, it's not just the outcome. Like I fell in love with the labor pains, not just the baby. In that, like when I push the button, like for me with that camera, if a picture is in focus, I'm good. Like I'm fired up about it. Like I like successfully loaded the film and I got it through the process and I took the picture and it's in focus and it's not blurry. And I got the film out of the camera without messing it up and we got it developed. And I get the scans back and I'm like, oh, I didn't screw it up. Like I did it. It's in focus. That's what I was trying to take a picture of. And like just that one day, like I was at Bob Tallman's place and I was taking a picture of like one of his fence lines and I accidentally did a double exposure and that was not on purpose. It was just literally, I messed it up. And I was like, oh, but it turned out really cool. I'm like, oh, I can get down with that. Like I'm thrilled about it. So, but yeah, I think that's the difference with what I found and what I try to convey to young photographers is just, you have to be obsessed with it. I relate a lot of things to my good friend, Cody Webster. Like Cody Webster is successful because he is obsessed. Like it's a sickness. Everything is related some way, shape, and form to bullfighting. Like I have sat in his camper before watching him watch a bullfight and lose his mind because guys aren't doing what he knows they can do. Or like when they, and like, of course you're fighting a fighting bull, like everything happens 1,000 miles an hour. He's so like, and not just like sitting, watching it in his hands. Like he's like getting up, like you see him moving the whole time.
He's like the right boys on the back of the chute when they basically like ride the invisible horse while they watch their brother compete.
1,000%. But like I said, that's how committed and obsessed you have to be with it. Like it has to be a sickness, like where to the point that you almost get sick when you're not doing it. Right. That's how like, cause that's how passionate you have to be about it. But I think when it comes to photography, it can't just be the subject matter. It can't just be what you shoot because what happens out here is never consistent. It's always going to change. Like sometimes the horse is not going to buck the way you want him to, or the guy's going to miss his mark out. So he's going to effectively mess up your picture. But if you still fall in love with the process of just taking the picture and trying to make a better picture every time, it never gets old.
Oh, I love that. And I'm sure that your upbringing has influenced your perspective on Western culture and rodeo photography just because you are still kind of seeing it through fresh eyes. You're not somebody who was raised in it to the point that, you're only shooting what is quote unquote correct because you're seeing it through this different lens. And I think that is probably one of the things that also really drives that creative process.
I think for me too, like that's kind of the East Coast deal. I actually did my master's thesis was kind of on that, in that if you like watch a Western, the first thing you see is the landscape, right? Like you have this big giant vista, these mountains or this open plains. And then like your main protagonist comes, like walks into the frame or rides a horse into the frame. And the Western culture, you're very much raised by your terrain. Like I talked to like my buddy from Montana, and our conversations would always start with the weather. Where it's like the weather was just the weather where I'm from. Like it didn't affect crops or like how the cattle, like we didn't have to make decisions on our day-to-day basis.
What was the first thing I asked you before we started recording? How's the weather?
How's the weather, right? So I learned how to effectively be a cowboy, and I learned about cowboy culture from cowboys or people who were in the Western space. So I wasn't educated by the terrain. I was educated by the people. So in the pictures I did for my thesis, you just saw the people. I shot everything at night, so you couldn't see the terrain and everything. It was just kind of these moody pictures of the individuals, because that was effectively my Western upbringing, was the people, not the terrain, right? You learn, like you think about like Derek Begay, and he learned so much from just the terrain he's in and how to move and function around it. Whereas me, I just learned from the guy that told me a story about this one time with the one guy. I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. And that's how I have to piece it together. So, but yeah, like very much my ignorance is so valuable because I don't overlook anything. Oh, I've never seen a saddle that way before. Or, or like I was just looking at a girl's TikTok yesterday, learning about bits. I can tell you what a bit is. I can identify it when I see it, but I don't know how it functions compared to, this one versus that one. So new things.
I think that is awesome. So how do you balance capturing what I would call like the rawness of rodeo action with the artistry that is like really telling stories? Because I know you are passionate about storytelling with images. That's one of those things that drives many photographers. But I think that there is kind of a juxtaposition there.
I think in my mind, I just a long time ago decided to not separate it. Like, I'm not holding two cameras, so to speak. I'm going to shoot this one technically correct, and I'm going to do something weird on this one. It's just like, and a lot of times when I'm teaching, I talk about two things: how to be technically proficient at what you're doing and understanding your craft and how the camera works. But then I also talk about how an image feels, which is not something that you can actually like kind of quantify. So like when I go to the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, those pictures, when you see them, immediate nostalgia, immediate, like, that's awesome. Like, but the reality is photographically, some of them are not the best images. Like they're okay, but like the moment, takes you to another level. Oh man, that's how Cheyenne used to look, right? There's no tents. It's just this, right? In my head, I'm like, well, why can't we have both? Why can't it be a great action moment and tell the story of where we are in that moment and showcase the unique things about that arena, or, this is when so-and-so rode this bull, and, because it memorializes those moments that we talk about, because we're all talk about stories. And I remember when so-and-so, I'm like, well, here's a picture. This was, I've got great pictures of guys getting bucked off. And I'm like, man, this guy was going to be 94. There's a picture, and I had to dig it up, of JB riding one of Chad Berger's bulls that I have an okay one, but someone had a better picture, and I show it all the time. I'm like, he bucked off, but he was going to be every bit of 94, 95. He covers this bull. And it's like, you got the Cheyenne bucket shoots in the background and all that deal. I'm like, it doesn't have to be, I don't have to, because I'm often considered the artsy guy. Yes, I'm an art student. I come from a formal background and all that kind of deal. But yeah, I was like, why can't the image be technically correct, but also be a really incredible image that showcases the incredible power of our horses and bulls and our contestants? And like, is there a way photographically to showcase all the things that you don't see? Because we see contestants for 10 to 15 seconds, right? How can you in a split second convey the work or the details or the effort or the education and the dedication that person's put through in their deal? Because you can see it, like when someone has improved, as a roper or as a steer wrestler or as a rider, like his toes used to be in and now they're where they're supposed to be. And you can show that, and you can see he's improved. Like, that's the one thing I try to capture this year. Like, I think Bradley Miller turned the corner last year when he got to the NFR. Like he came like a wrecking ball. And where is he at right now? He's number one in the world. Like, okay, so what? I can go back to the pictures. I'm like, okay, what changed? Is it just he figured out a way to show a horse off a little bit better, or how to pick up a horse or things like that? Why not?
I also love that you mentioned back to that moment of JB or anybody. This is something I'd literally never thought about until you just said that. You could take the most perfect, like museum worthy, gallery worthy photo, and it could be a run where somebody breaks the barrier or they get bucked off or what is quote unquote not perfect, right? Like they did not execute their job. But just because they didn't necessarily execute the job doesn't mean that it wasn't correct up until then. Like you could have the best photo of something that is then in theory a complete flop.
I mean, rodeo and Western culture is the epitome of imperfection and failure.
Yes.
Like we fail. Like I joke all the time. My nephew is like everything about it right now. Like I just saw him recently and like everything about it is rodeo. And my brother's like, what do you think? I'm like, golf clubs is what I think. I think he should get golf clubs. And then one thing I told him, I said, you got to remember, he's only a badass when he's winning. And cowboys fail a lot. Like it is inherently a part of our deal of how we overcome failure. Like I've thought about this as a project for years, but never have been able to actually convey it but like, I think it's incredible. Like, and you can see it in the arena, like a girl goes to rope a calf, she misses. Or we'll do the classic one that really bums you out when a calf steps all the way through your loop. Like your shot's good and he just goes through it. And then you're like, oh, you're bummed out, right? And of course, we also don't know all the things that are related to that miss, right? Like how much money's in the bank? Did we really need to catch this one? How is this going to change our trajectory throughout the year?
Yeah, all the things that's going through someone's mind at the time.
And then in like 4 to 5 strides of the horse, they've moved on. Like, how do you, and like I've sat down and I've talked to people, like, how do you process that so fast? Because, and yes, we may think about it later, but like, I've seen it so many times where you can see someone confidently just move on, like, and understand like that we're going to fail. Like there's going to be issues. It's not going to go the way we always want, but we've got to like push through to get to the next big high. It's like when I talk about cutting horses, cuttings can get really long and really boring, but it takes one horse to bring all the energy back up in the building, right? So it's the same thing. It's like understanding and processing failure and how do we overcome that? Like Western people are some of the most resilient because we understand it's probably not going to go perfect, but that's okay, right? We'll take the not perfect to live this crazy lifestyle versus expecting perfection and being stuck in an office.
No, absolutely. It goes back to the idea that like you've got to start and you've got to try. And even if you fail, that's okay. Because if you fail, that's a hell of a lot better than being too scared to ever start or to ever try because you're worried about failure. You are doing more if you're out there failing than you are if you are sitting at home, not doing the thing you want to do because you're afraid of failure.
I told one of my assistants the other day, because she was kind of in a rut. We all get in ruts. I said, it only stops if you stop, right? Like, yes, you may have to course correct, but like the dream only dies if you stop. That's it. And yes, you can take a break. I can take a year off. And of course, the world would probably come to an end if I put on Instagram that I'm not taking pictures for a year. They'd be like, what? Like there'd be a countdown deal and the whole thing. But yeah, like the deal only stops if you stop.
Ooh, that's a good place to maybe go into the next question.
Yeah.
We've obviously talked a lot about the fact that you are a 3-time PRCA Photographer of the Year. That is a wildly significant achievement. What does a recognition like that mean to you now? And knowing that that is something that you still have the chance to receive more of those.
The cool thing about that deal is it is a award that is given through the voting of the membership. It's more than just being a photographer. You have to be a person that people like. I tell people all the time, like our industry is founded on handshakes and horse trades. And it's still that same way. There may be millions of dollars involved, but at the end of the day, if you're not a person that people want to invite to dinner, more than likely you won't have a lot of success. But I think also that is from the time spent. Like if you're the best photographer in Texas, that doesn't guarantee you're going to win photographer of the year because there's another 12, 13 circuits. Like you have to, expand and broaden and build your brand a little bit and expand out there. But I would say photographer of the year was a goal, but it wasn't the main thing, because I always tell people, particularly, and it's easy to tell someone it's going to be okay if they don't accomplish their goals. But the one thing I always try to tell people is like, man, if I don't get selected for the NFR, if I live my whole year for these 10 days, then I've missed a whole year, right? Because really and truly, the NFR is tough. It's an administrative chaos nightmare. So, and if I'm living just to be photographer, that's why if you go on my Instagram, it doesn't say PRCA Photographer of the Year. That's why, like, the buckles, I am not in possession of any of those buckles. The first two are at my mom's house, and the third one is going to like a museum, because for me, I look at those awards almost like trophies. And for me, I can't be the photographer I need to be and the person I need to be in 2025 if I'm focused on what I did last year or the year before, or the year after that. Like, it's a continuous, one day we'll stop and we'll take it all in. But like, while I can, like, I'm going to focus on progressing and moving forward. And like, how can I make better images for the committees, the contestants, for history? Because that's a unique thing too, that like a lot of times we don't always think about till like you get to the NFR. It's like, I'm not just shooting the NFR. I'm historically documenting the National Finals Rodeo for that year and for those 120 contestants and those moments. Because there will be moments that like happen that year that will never happen again, right? And to be a part of that and to be on the dirt and to be photographer of the year, like, it swells you with pride for sure, because there's only one. I remember one of my friends was telling one of my good friend Rosanna Sales, because someone was giving her a hard time. And he's like, you'd be proud of being photographer of the year because in 100 years, there's only going to be 100 of you. And we're like, well, when you stop and you realize, okay, that you have a whole different perspective and you cherish and those are resume changers. So like now you're a PRCA photographer a year, and now you're an NFR photographer. And like, I just appreciate and I enjoy continuing to be a part of the story. I think one thing people don't realize too with that is that when you step on that stage, you receive that deal. Now you become a representative, whether you realize it or not. Now that next year, you're the reigning whatever, right? And so people look to you as like the tip of the spear. Like, you have to maintain and operate and function in that way, which can be pressing for some. But I think if you get used to and comfortable operating at that level, then it's just another day in the park.
Two big things that I took away from that is, one, you really have to enjoy the process, which is something that we hear so many people talk about, right? It is the journey, not the destination. Because in reality, you might get to where you want to be, but there's still places to go. Like, you're never going to get there, and we don't just go to the beach and then sit on the beach for the rest of our lives, right? Like, the process is more important than the destination. And the other thing that I really took away from that is this idea that what got you here won't get you there. So whatever you did to become the 2024 PRCA Photographer of the Year is likely not what is going to get you to be the 2025 or the 2026. And so if you want to keep up leveling and keep, I would say, sticking to that standard, you have to do new things, and you can't be so focused on, oh, well, I was this or I am this. Like, no, if you want to stay to that standard, you have to continue to keep up leveling and move forward.
Oh yeah. There was, I can't remember the name of the podcast, where the guy was talking about, which I think a lot of people appreciate, is we want to conquer the dragon. Like, whatever our dragon is, we want to conquer it. But then over time, what you realize is that the bigger dragons are in the bigger, darker caves. And every time you enter into a new one, you're like, oh, this dragon's a whole lot bigger than the last one. And so you have to grow in that way, and you have to be prepared to take scars. But also, if it doesn't go the way you planned, you just learn from it. It's not it all ends today or things like that. But yeah, like, absolutely, that I'm all for dancing with the one that brought you, but each year is a new year. When I start each year, I always ask myself, what is success? Because once you've done something that's maybe takes a toll on you, or like requires a long period of time to accomplish, you have to ask yourself, do you want to do it again? Is it going to be as fulfilling as it was before? Is there, so like, yes, every year I ask myself, like, what is success? Like, do I want to keep doing it this way, or do I want to keep doing it? Right. Because at the end of the day, if you're doing it for somebody else, like that will wear thin.
Yeah,
like,
or the award even. Like you got to do it for other things.
Yeah, like I am thankful and honored, and like I appreciate like having that award and having that associated with my name. I used to joke with a friend, it's kind of morbid, but so we've done enough to be in the memorial video. Now the goal is to be further along, like later in the video. Like the more influential, impactful people will be at the end of the video when the horses and the sunset goes. So like, and again, it all goes back to the stories and the legacy. And like, it's like, okay, you know, what number can we get in front of that X of photographer of the year where you're like way at the end, or, you know, or like now I'm working on my timers card, which is totally out of left field, but it's like, okay, how do I continue to grow, do different things, and, you know, continue to progress?
Oh, I love this. Okay. We have got to get to our rapid fire round. First question.
We can do a part 2 because I can feel it.
I know. You're coming back. We'll get that on the calendar when we stop recording. Okay. What is something you hope people remember most about you?
One, that I was a man of faith and that I was a good person. I think often about what's your documentary look like? And I would prefer that people, when they say, tell us about Click Thompson, that they smile, they laugh, they think of a fun story. And then, oh, by the way, he was this phenomenal photographer. But like, I think people will always remember you for who you were and not what you did.
Ooh, that is fabulous. Okay. What is a non-negotiable in your life?
Respect. And I will even get on my friends because it's not that maybe they disrespected someone else, it's that they didn't respect themselves. And so that is the thing that is always important. When I've done job interviews, I explain that respect is a non-negotiable. I expect to be respected. I will give you respect. And I also expect you to respect yourself. So,
okay. If you were a professional athlete, what would your walk-up song be?
What people don't see is sometimes I feel like it is because I've got knee braces and arm sleeves and everything under these jeans and shirts.
A serious case of carpal tunnel.
There is tennis elbow, carpal tunnel, bang. You know, it would either be Click from Big Sean, which is just they use all the time. And there was another one I had thought of. Oh, I used recently Winning Streak by Shabuzi, which is one of his older songs. But there's another one, but I can't remember the artist name. But yeah, I like Click or Winning Streak. Always good.
You know what? I have threatened to do this every single time because this is a newer set of rapid fire round questions that we've been asking. So we've probably only asked 10 other guests this question. And we need to put together a playlist of everybody's walkout songs because I feel like that could totally be.
That'd be cool.
Yes. Okay.
Definitely do the edited version on Click for sure, because that is not kid friendly.
We won't have the explicit versions, everybody. Don't worry. But that will, if you are listening today, we will have done this by the time this podcast airs. So don't you worry. Okay. What is the smartest thing that somebody's ever told you?
To credit the super intelligent Fernando Sampson, you are always somebody.
Ooh. Will you say that again?
You are always somebody's somebody.
Yes. That is amazing. Last question for the day. Let's talk about favorite things. Do you have a book that you love, a podcast you listen to, a service, a life hack, maybe a travel hack, something? It could be like photography related. It could be just general life related. Share it with us.
Book-wise, I'm reading right now. I just started reading The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin.
I have that. It's really good. I loved it.
I'm reading that right now. I'm a vinyl guy. I'm looking at like 200 sets of vinyls over here. But travel hack, TSA pre-check. If you do not have TSA pre-check, I don't care if you fly once a year. It will. I had this experience of getting to an airport recently and the pre-check line wasn't open. And when you've got to pull laptops and computers and cameras out and take your shoes off and like, you just want to, I think it's like $75, $80 now for 5 years. Do it. Clear. I haven't like been sold on Clear yet, but pre-check, change your life. I'm telling you.
Click, I think you're speaking directly to me because I don't have pre-check. I don't. I know. I need it. Okay.
Do it.
You've influenced me.
I'm telling you. The fact that you like don't have to take your jacket off. Like only thing you ever have to take off is like maybe like your phone and like if you got any large pieces of jewelry like metal, that's it. You got to take your shoes off. You got to take your laptop out. The line's shorter. It moves faster. Bam, going through. Like where your friends are sitting in the zigzag line that goes 15 times back and you just walk straight through that deal. And like you're at the gate, got your coffee, whatever, sitting down, and they're just now walking up.
Okay, guys, I've been called out by Click. I'm getting pre-check. I've got a laundry list of stuff to do now. We've got to make a playlist. We've got to get pre-check. Here we are.
Telling you, it'll change your life.
Click, this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate this. Where can people find you online so that they can follow along with you? And then also, where can they find your work online as well?
Pretty much wherever you can follow me, other than Snapchat, you can find my work. But clickthompson.com, on Instagram at Click Thompson. I think on Facebook, it's Click T. If you do Click Thompson, you'll get my personal page. And if I don't know you and I don't know you like that, I may not add you back. But on the Click T one, I will. Shoot me messages in DMs. I'm super slow on Snapchat because my Snap count's like, I don't even think it's in like the 20,000s. It's pretty bad. But I just rather would text someone or talk to them on the phone. But yeah, pretty much anything. If you Google Click Thompson, which is disgusting, and I can't realize that I've actually said that out loud, just Google me. But but I guess that means you're doing something right.
Yeah, I love it. Well, this is wonderful. Hopefully, some of our listeners will get to see you at a pro rodeo near them sometime this year. Yes, you guys go seek him out. You also mentioned that you're going to start selling prints, or you do already start selling prints?
We're working on, I got some, I've already got some old ones already ready to go. And then I'm actually framing some right now out to take to another event and working on prints, working on hopefully 1 or 2 gallery shows, and then eventually a book. I'll say my first book because I already know I'll have to do like 2 or 3. And
where can people buy your prints, or where will they be able to buy your prints once you've launched that?
They're going to be on my website. I'll probably make a whole nother deal. I'll start like a Shopify deal. And yeah, that's all that work at organizing, getting all that deal. I know it'll pay off once I get it all set up, but you just have to go through the growing pains of getting it all set up. But yeah, it'll be cool. Yeah, I'm trying to get my work in people's houses.
Thank you so much for today. You guys, if there was something you loved from this episode, which I know there absolutely was, do us a favor, share it in your stories, tag Of the West, tag Click. We want to hear what resonated most with you. And you guys know you can catch us back here next week. Brand new episode of Leaders of the West. It is going to be fabulous, just like today was. We will see you then.
If you loved this episode, do us a favor and share it with someone else who might find just as much value in it as you did. We're on a mission to continue to grow and strengthen the future of agriculture and Western industries, and you spreading the word helps us make more of a positive impact. It also makes a big difference when you take a minute to go rate and review the show. We can't thank you enough for listening, for sharing, and for loving Ag and Western as much as we do. We'll see you back here for our next episode.